Jessica, thanks for being Intoxicated with me. We have so much history, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on, Jessica.
Thank you for having me.
Of
Yeah, we do have a
course.
lot of history. Like 20
We go
years,
back to
25
freshman
years.
year.
Yeah, we go back. It's like,
Go back to the lunch table in freshman year. She was so nice to me. She's like, "Oh, look at this lost puppy.
oh,
Hey, come on, you can
stop.
sit with us. It's
Oh,
okay."
stop.
Yeah,
That was,
it was
I
definitely
don't
that.
think it was that, but that's what you remember. As long as I was a nice one.
Oh no, you were. Oh yeah, you were definitely the nice one at the table. There were some mean girls at the
Oh,
table. It was literally like the movie Mean
oh
Girls.
my gosh, really? I don't know. I don't probably even talk to half of those girls either anymore.
Right. I don't even remember their names. I mean, I can, pick them out of a lineup, but I don't remember their names because they weren't important. But yeah, definitely. Obviously, we do have a lot of history, and going back to that, let's start at the beginning, right? Um, what was your experience? Because everyone has a different experience going to Lane Tech. We went to Lane Tech, and it's a college campus, high school,
Hmm.
essentially, and everyone has a different experience because everyone gets to choose their path at the beginning as a freshman. And so I was in, it was a machine shop major. What was your major?
I honestly don't remember. Um, I was tech. So I was shop, but I don't. I
Really?
was, yeah. Um,
Okay. That was mine. Applied technology,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Like I took my wood shop. I took my auto shop. I took my, was it, uh, the metal? Yeah, I guess it. Yeah, that's what I did.
It was electric. It was
Yeah, I
electric
did the
metal.
electric. I remember that was my freshman year. I did, and then I think
Yeah.
at the very end, I was just more consumed in like the arts parts of it, like because I know that
Mhm.
one of them was music, but I never did that. So at the very end, I was kind of doing more of the acting. I was in theater, but I don't even.
Okay.
I would say like I don't even remember. Like if you look back at it, especially now, because Lane is not a shop school anymore. It's
No,
a
college
college
prep.
prep. It wasn't that when we were there, but I don't know because I was always very consumed in more of the extracurriculars. Like I was,
Oh, that's the,
yeah. So
yeah.
I was, president of of an organization, and so it was all about more so community building for me. I think if anything,
Hmm.
that's what it molded in me, was just a sense of community and leadership. And it was one of the
Okay.
things that I realized in high school, that I was gonna go into a world of just, I was like, you know leadership and mentorship and that. So, but I'm glad that I did the tech stuff, or the shop stuff, because I do love me some arts and crafts. So I remember planing wood, those LTHS, those big plaques that we make in school.
Yeah, with the
Yeah,
arrow. Do you still have any of that
I
stuff?
do. Well, my parents do,
Uh,
in my in
oh
my
yeah, yeah.
in my parents' house.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't matter how old you are, you still have crap in your parents' house. Anything
Always,
that I didn't want
always.
to transfer over to my actual home is like
Hmm.
still sitting in my parents' house.
uh,
It's a mess.
I was looking. I was trying to because I found one of
Oh my
these with
gosh.
tons of pictures, and I do have another one, but I'm not gonna look for it now while we're out in the air. But I do have some pictures, and I have them from international days where you were
Oh my
performing.
god.
Yeah, yeah. And then I can't show this one.
Why?
I'll show you. I'll show you off air because you said you'd kill me if I ever showed this picture. But
Wait, I am so intrigued right now. It can't
yeah,
be.
well, it's all right. I'll give you the
Okay.
context. It's international days. Our friend Veronica had just performed with the Colombian group,
Okay.
so I was taking a picture with her, and you're walking in the background,
Oh,
and it's not a flattering picture of you.
I
So I got some,
since
in case you.
since then I probably have taken way worse, less flattering pictures than that, I promise you.
I mean, if you do a deep dive in my Facebook.
in my life as a model, I feel like, oh, and even when I was on Big Brother, because it's
Hmm.
live 24/7 cameras, when I
Oh yeah.
got out, there were a lot of fans that would send me screenshots of
Oh
so
God.
many things. And I'm like, why would you take a screenshot of, sometimes it's my backside, it was like my feet, it was just like the most random things. And I was like, oh God, this is, I don't know what.
That's funny because that happened to what is the actress name? Sofia Vergara.
Mhm.
She's always, she's in makeup, in between takes and whatever. So she's trying to eat. So she was, I think she was on Ellen, and she's trying to describe like all these pictures that these fans take, and it's like her mouth is wide
Yep.
open because she doesn't want to waste the lipstick and her makeup, get it all ruined. So she like learned how to eat without touching her lips, and all the fans would take pictures and send them to her, like, "Oh my God, look at her with her big old mouth."
Yeah,
And it's like, no, it's a technique because you don't want to go back to makeup because that takes forever.
absolutely.
Uh,
And I'm lucky that there were no actual cameras in that sense when I was in hair and makeup. Not for Big Brother because that does not exist. But in my
really?
modeling days, yeah, because Big Brother isn't necessarily like it's not a reality show where I'm going into it's not like Real Housewives, right? It's not like, hey,
Got
take, and we do this and we do.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
raw 24/7. People are screenshotting me asleep. They know if I snore, they know how I pop a zit. They know the weirdest things about me, and I think that that's why some people connect more to me in certain situations because they're like, oh, I do the same thing, or I was exactly that. And it was some type of representation that they saw, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I'm like that too.
Yeah, I think that with especially that type of show where you say it's raw and uncut, there's cameras everywhere. So you kind of like you well, how do you get used to that first of
You
all? How do you get used to getting filmed 24/7?
You don't. And the thing is that it's not like any other reality show where there's an actual camera person in front of you. It's like
Right.
every mirror, which is like there's mirrors everywhere in the house. They're actually
Hmm.
two-sided. They're two-sided screens, like kind of like when you get interrogated in jail or something, or you're getting interrogated and
Yeah.
there's that double-sided mirror, and the camera people
Mhm.
are behind that, and then there's cameras like on the corners of the rooms, so you really
Mhm.
kind of forget that cameras are really there unless you hear them, like you hear the camera moving as you're walking, so then you know that they're following you. But
Yeah.
otherwise it's not like, oh, I have to be on, or I had to say this. I feel like it's very easy to forget that that you're on TV. But before being on Big Brother, I've been a model for the past, over 10 years. And so being camera ready and just, being very aware of where the cameras are, my angles and things of that nature, it helped me, I think, a little bit, but
Mhm.
not to that extent. I mean, now there's a camera
Yeah.
around and I really don't care. It's not,
Mhm.
it is what it is. So,
Yeah, and then like you're talking about being relatable because you're on camera, because you're a natural person. Because the cameras are, like you said, you forget that there's one in every corner as you're walking by in every room. Um, yeah, I mean, it makes it more accessible to the realistic part of what it's supposed to be, reality TV, not the overproduced Jersey Shore or the Housewives of so and so city, whatever. Those are overproduced. There's kind of a loose script. Hey, this is what we're going to talk about. This is what we're going to do today,
mhm.
whatever. But as for Big Brother, it is kind of raw and uncut, and the lack of privacy. That's what I was getting to. Is like, how did you deal with that? Like, you know, were you able to like, hey, I need 5 minutes, or hey, I need to do something?
You
No.
don't have it. You don't have it. I mean, it's
Oh.
24/7. I mean, they're videotaping me while I shower. And if I forget, and if I
Whoa.
forget that, well, when you shower, the stall like hits here, right? So you can't see anything, but
Ah,
you know that I'm showering.
okay.
Like you could see the
Got it,
shower,
got it, got it,
right? So they're like, oh,
got it.
Jessica's in the shower. They're not gonna like zoom in, but
Okay.
but if God forbid I was to forget that the cameras are there and I walk out completely naked,
Sure.
then
Yeah.
that's a shot that they're gonna take, and there's no going back from that, you know?
Dum, dum, dum,
Yeah,
TMZ.
so we would change in the stalls, we would change in the,
Uh-huh.
in the bathroom stalls. We were making sure that if we were changing, it was like underneath, like I would have like a long dress, and I would like put on my, shorts or whatever I was changing into underneath. It was just like you kind of find very weird ways of how you change. So
It's kinda like changing at the beach.
yeah, exactly. It's like every day, but except you're doing that every day for 99 days. Yes, absolutely.
99
Yeah, I
days?
was in the house. I was in the house for 79 days before I
Mhm.
was taken out. And then I spent another 20 days in a sequester, kind of like isolated still from the world, except that at this point I was like, I want to say that I was like in an outhouse, but it felt like a rehab. It felt like I was in some isolated rehab away from cameras. You know,
Okay.
um,
So there was no cameras
there
at
was
this
no
point?
cameras at that point, except on certain days where they would record us when a new person came in, because we didn't know who was getting evicted or what was happening. Then they would come in, they would record us like kind of responding to this new person that's coming into the house, and like, oh my god, what happened? And you're still talking game, you're still talking strategy at that point. But for those 20 days I was living good. It was 20 days in a Malibu mansion, overseeing like
Ooh.
the mountains. I don't think I will ever make enough money in my lifetime to live or go a vacation in the place that we were staying at. Actually, when we got out, who was it? Lori Harvey. Is that Steve Harvey's daughter?
Okay, yes.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
had rented that specific mansion to vacation with Michael B. Jordan when she was dating him. So that's the kind of spot that I was living in for 20 days of my life. And it was just like one of the most amazing, and yet one of the most like the loneliest time of my life, because I was there without any of my loved ones, right? You're seeing all this beautiful stuff and you're not
Right.
with anybody. You're with people that you're playing a game with, that you don't necessarily
Mm,
like, that you don't
mhm.
trust. It was a
Right.
very eye-opening experience for me.
Now, are you able to contact your loved ones, have phone calls or FaceTime? Nothing?
99 days without my daughter and without my husband, like, or my sister. Nobody, no contact with the outside world. I had no idea what was going on in the world. We knew nothing, nothing.
How did you deal with that without being able to contact your husband? I mean, obviously you get married to someone, you're like, well, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, but peace out. I'll be back in 100 days. It's
Basically,
that's a hard. And then how did that how did the relationship dynamic work? Because obviously no contact, but like that's a hard thing to do in a relationship. We're like, hey, we're committed, but we're not going to see each other for 3 almost 4 months. How did that end up working out, like as far as how did he feel about it before, during, and after?
um, I think when we talked about it and when I said that I had the opportunity to do it, um, it was just uh, it was a dream of mine to do it.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
he's a very supportive man, and I think that in our relationship it was all really built about, we've always built trust around our relationship and honesty, and just I mean, he always knew where I was going to be, right? Like if he wanted to see me, he could turn on the TV and he could be like, "Oh, Jessica's making food, or Jessica's arguing with that person, Jessica's crying in a corner."
Mhm.
Like he could see all of that, you know?
Just like at
Just
home.
yeah, he could go home and click on the TV and he's like he knows exactly where I am, you know? I
Gotcha.
think it was harder for me, leaving my loved ones and having them live their lives and not knowing what they're doing. Like that was for me the utmost trust that I needed to have in my man, right? In saying like
Mhm,
he's living these 100 days without me. How is he dealing? And so he was in
mhm,
charge of all of the finances, taking care of the home, taking care of the child, taking care of all of
mhm,
these things. And I think for me it was harder to know that he was kind of living a single dad life, and
mhm,
working and providing and doing all this stuff, and also taking care of all of my personal stuff if need be. And of course, along with all of the love that I got on TV, I also got a lot of hate and a lot of trolls and a lot of, there's just a lot of things that were going on in my season. So he was also dealing with seeing everything on social media and the comments
mhm,
about myself and
mhm.
all of their thoughts about me.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the hardest things to do when you're out in front of a camera. You have, like you said, the trolls. I call them the keyboard
Yeah,
warriors, because they're behind the keyboard on a laptop or on their cell phone, and they're quick to make comment, not knowing context, not knowing the person, not knowing how these words will impact not only that person but their loved ones.
absolutely.
Um, and if they are confronted, they're like, "Oh no, I'm so sorry." Like, well, you know what? You caused us so much damage. Your words don't mean anything now because you had so much malintent because you want to feel important.
Yeah.
And I really hate that, and that's why I call them keyboard warriors, because you wouldn't say that to that person's
Oh yeah.
face. Uh, so like I can sympathize with your husband, because not only it's great that he was able to see you, because that show is live. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
So he's able to see you in real time. Okay, she's gone for 90 days, but I can just see her. And I'm pretty sure they had a YouTube that was live right after, right?
um
Or they had a website that was like after dark or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the show itself, the um the evictions were live. The show, because it was going on 3 days a week, right? The actual show that you
Gotcha.
can watch.
Right.
2 of those
Mhm.
days, it was edited and recorded, right, about what was going on during the day, or during the
Mhm.
week. And then there was always one live eviction, so nobody knew who was getting evicted or what was happening, right?
Right.
So that was the live moment. But every night, like after those shows, like you could just go online and
Yes, that's
yeah,
what I
you
was
could
talking
just go
about.
online and check to see what the house guests were doing. Um,
Mhm.
so you were able to kind of see it firsthand.
I mean, so that's some comfort for him to be able to see you, and stuff like this, since he can't talk to you. But now that you come back from the show, what was that like for him
Um,
and for
well,
yourself,
we were
obviously?
happy. Yeah, right.
Of course, yeah, yeah.
I think for him, it was like, thank God you're here. But for me, it
Mhm.
was just so much more because he's dealing with catching up with one person who was gone for 100 days, right? And I was catching up on a dozen, of my closest friends and family that
Right.
had their own things happening to them for 100 days straight. Like I had a best friend, that by the time I walked into the house and I came out, she was married to a man that I didn't even know. Yeah, that's how
Wow.
fast, like 100 days.
You should have been on 90
And
90 Day
what
Fiance.
actually, yeah, she might as well.
Yeah, that
She
works out
might
for
as
her.
well have,
Right.
have been on that show because it was
Coulda
like
got everything paid
I
for.
was like, oh my God, there's so much. What did I miss? And she's like, well, I'm married. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? You weren't even dating when I left. Like I literally saw you a couple days before I left. Like, what happened? It was wild. And then yeah, it was just, yeah, 100 days for one person. is a lot. And so me having to catch up, but also being very jaded in like
Hmm.
my personal life of everything that I had experienced in that house, because the whole house, that whole experience is about lying and backstabbing people and getting really close to people, but ultimately having to lie to their face. And there were moments where I was just like, you can't, first of all, you can't really trust a lot of people. So there were a lot of trust issues that I had to deal with.
Hmm.
And even coming out, because coming out of the house, I'm like, are people what are people are talking about me? What are they saying? Because it was always like,
So you were always like, because you were on the show and you're always on guard,
yeah.
like you're always on the defensive, like, oh, are you saying this because of this? You're trying to do some strategy on me, or you're trying to get me out of the house, or you're just trying to start some drama. Like you're always on guard and you're like ready to the fight, the flight or fight. So you're doing that, and then you get out of the show and you're like, I, I'm still this person. Like how long did it take you to transition to being yourself again?
uh I'm still going through it. I think, oh
Really?
yeah, oh yeah. And if anybody has seen my season, they'd probably understand why. I had a very tumultuous season. The
Hmm.
people that I was in a house with, I never thought. I honestly, I think I was living in a bubble with, with thinking that people were a certain way, and then realizing that, hey, racism still exists. Hey, white privilege still exists. Hey, like ignorance is just running rampant, like there for some, I mean, I was living with 15 other individuals all from all walks of life,
Hmm.
and a lot of them were young. A lot of them were very naive. A lot of them were borderline racist. If they weren't like considered racist, a lot of people would say that they were just ignorant AF.
Yeah,
You know,
blind to
they
the
were
real
very,
world. Yeah.
very blind. And, as an older, like for me, an older house guest, because even
What
though
was the age difference between the guest, the other guest, and yourself?
when I was on the show, I was 38
Mhm.
and I was the oldest woman in the house.
Yeah, but
And
you
the
look like 25
person
almost.
who was closest, the next girl down, was had just turned 30. And then
Okay.
everybody else was like 23, 24. So they were
Mm.
relatively young. They were out of college. They were, you know, trying to be Instagram models, or, at that point in time, they were striving to be influencers. They were very young and thin and very, I mean, like, when we talk about Lane, there were like 4,000 kids at our school, right? I
Mhm.
had
Yeah.
never experienced that, when people say that high school mean girl like mentality. I don't think I experienced it to that degree until I went on the show. Like, it was worse than high school for me. It was, and I think it was because I was the odd girl out. Um,
Mhm.
I was the first plus size, visibly plus size woman to ever be on the show. So size wise, I think that in in an environment where it's about all of these 20 something very, very thin and good looking individuals that just want to hook up with each other. And by the way, they didn't know my age in the house. I never told them. um
So what did you disclose? Like what?
they knew that I was married. They knew that I had a child. They knew that I was in my 30s. A lot of them thought I was the same age as the youngest 30-year-old, so like roughly around 31. So
Mhm.
really, and then the next person, my age, not my age, and then the oldest person, who was a man, was 50, was 54.
Oh wow.
So really in the house, it was only that 54-year-old man, and then it was me at 38. And then everybody else was in their 20s, aside from that girl who had just turned 30. So yeah, it was interesting. I wasn't expecting that type of dynamic to be such a big deal because like I said, I model for a living. I work with teenagers, I work with 20 something year olds, and when I'm shooting with them, they, in the pictures, it's like we're besties. The pictures are us together. Like it was very much like there was no difference. Um and here it just, I was very much targeted, and a lot of it had to do with, I think, my relatability in terms of like I had a very low tolerance for BS. So a
Hmm.
lot of things were just I was acting grown when they were acting
Childish.
it, in a sense, if they were acting their age, and they should, I've been that,
Yeah.
we've all been that age, and that's great. I just wasn't
Right.
in that state of mind at that point, and I knew that I had to be in order to be relatable, and in order, to work with people. What I was not prepared for was the amount of just yeah, the amount of just backstabbing and the amount of gossip that was going on in a house that you can't really get away from. Like we all lived, we're all, it's a hamster. It's literally a hamster wheel. It's like a little, we're we're just lab rats. Just people are watching us,
Hmm.
and there's nowhere to go except that house. So there's no time for yourself. It was a very, I don't even know. Like again, I had to go to a lot of therapy, which I suggest for anybody, even if you don't go through this experience. But, it was a lot of growth. It was a big growth moment for me because in my 30s, I had already created my tribe. When you're older, you're just like, I don't want to be around these type of people. I'm going to be about
Yeah.
around, I mean, I could even say I could be around people that are not even like me, but
Hmm.
that are differences that we can listen to our differences and learn from one another. And we're having grown conversations.
Conversations. Right.
Not the you can't sit with us mentality, and I think that that was the hardest part of it because when you're acting that way, it was very hard for me to just bite the bullet and be docile and not say something
Hmm.
and just turn the other way. Like sometimes I would have to walk out of a room uh just so that I wouldn't say something stupid that would get me eliminated. You know what I mean? Because I was thinking about the game. I'm like, this is a game. It's a game. It's a game. This isn't real. This isn't real. But sadly enough, like these are real people.
Hmm.
They're real people put in not very real situations. Because how many times are we saying like, okay, the name of the game is to be first, and I gotta eliminate you somehow? Like that's Hunger Games type shit. We're not playing that, right?
Right.
But we were literally, that's the situation I had placed myself in. So.
Hmm. Were you given any parameters as you entered the program? As that you got brought on, like, hey, these are the rules. This is what you can and cannot do. Were you given any parameters?
Um, no, there was. I mean, if we were live, if it was a live taping, we just had to be very mindful of not swearing. You know, um, if but in terms of anything, pretty much goes as long as you're not physically hurting somebody.
Hmm.
And well, at least now they actually do. My season changed this, where they eliminate people due to hate speech. But on my season,
Hmm.
it was a lot of it was a lot of uncalled for conversations that I didn't know of, I wasn't a part of. But
Okay.
once I got out of the house, I had a lot of people sending me video clips of people talking about other people, talking about myself. I think like someone had called me Consuela. Guadalupe. They said I was just there to clean the house, like shit like that. Like, I mean, very random and uncalled for stuff. And I'm just like, bro, like, I, yeah, it was just, I still sometimes think about it, and I feel sad sometimes, but what are you gonna do? It's like, this is this is like the world that we live in.
Yeah, it's very sad when you take the filters off of what we really are in. It's not as pretty. Not It's not just like on Instagram or your TikTok. Where you can impose an image or a
Yeah.
lifestyle. That's not what real life is. And um, when you're in a room where you have different ethnicities, you have different backgrounds, you have different ages, you have different religions, you have different views, that's going to create an explosive environment, and that's what they want. They want the ratings, right? That's exactly what they're looking for. So you're going through all this, you come out of it, you have to go through therapy to reprogram yourself to being your original
Mhm.
self. And you said you're still going through to get to that. Would you do this again? Would you have signed up for this program?
No. No, not at all. I would say that a regular 100-day season of this shit, no, absolutely not. I would
Mm,
never do it again. Um, Now, there have been different situations where there's less time. It's under certain different circumstances. I think that if that were the case, yeah, for sure, I probably would, if it was the perfect time. But I think that at this point, if I said yes to it, I think my husband would divorce me, to be quite honest. Like, I think that our relationship suffered a good amount once I came out,
mhm.
just because of all of the, not the backlash, but it was sad. You go in. The reason why I went on the show is because, like, I've watched the show,
Mhm.
and I wanted to prove that a girl like me, and when I mean a girl like me, it's like I'm a very average girl in general to anybody that would see me, but a, a plus size woman, a visibly plus size woman, can be on a very challenging, like, competitive show and do this as well. It's not just, you know, the young, thin, athletic type that can be portrayed on these shows, you know?
I think that definitely has changed in recent times, where we went for the Vogue, skin and bones model that's modeling the new dress, whatever, to now saying, what, we all don't look like
Yeah,
that. You know what, that doesn't represent me. I don't like it. I'm not going to buy it. It's not something that's attainable for me. I want to see somebody that represents me, whether it's my size, my ethnicity, my religion, my my values, all that. And that has completely changed in marketing, where you now see Dove. They have like all different size women.
mm-hmm.
And they're naked, they're covered up. It's a tasteful thing. It's tasteful advertisement, but it's women that look like regular women that you would see walking down the street, and that's important. Representation is important,
Absolutely.
and I don't know why it took so long. That's the problem. I have no idea why it took so
Yeah,
long.
I think, and I agree with you, for something for me that is so natural. Like, I see bodies of every size. I have friends of every color. There is a good sense of diversity amongst my whole group of people, that the people that I surround myself with. Um, and for some reason, when I went into that house, I was literally four out of 16 people that were not your typical, white heterosexual like stereotype.
Hmm.
And
Right.
that was very surprising to me. And I think that's where my mind just kind of, I was I was just dumbfounded. I was like, why am I here? Like, this isn't, is this real life? Is this really, when you're saying you're portraying like society as a whole in this show? Because mind you, with Big Brother, it is a social experiment. It's supposed to be
Yes.
people of all walks of life, different people. And you're telling me out of all the 16 people you could have chose, you chose one fat Latina, one two, two black people and an Indian
Uh,
person, and that's what we're going with. That's the representation, and everybody else is like thin and white. And don't get me wrong, I have white friends. I love me some white people. That's great. You white, perfect. Look, I'm even a light skinned Latina. I am a white passing light skinned Latina. And I was telling people I
uh,
understand my privilege as being a light skinned Latina, because they could have put, an Afro Latina on there, but they didn't do it. Like, so what I'm saying is, like, on my season, the diversity was just lacking so hard. And I just felt myself like thinking, this isn't the environment that I had set up for myself. Like, and I struggled with it very, very, very much so. Um, and then I was just like, oh my gosh, this is
mhm.
wild. Some people that had never seen a black person in their life, had never talked to one, had never,
Oh
met one
my
in real life,
God.
like, or had never had a friend.
2024.
Well, at that time it was 2019, but even in 2019,
Still.
still, you're like, bro, you don't have one friend that is not your ethnicity. Like,
Right.
I didn't understand it. But at the same time, like attracts like. So when you're playing a
Hmm.
competition like this, and you have 16 people
Yeah.
and 12 of them look like you, act like you, are people that you are used to, then that's what you're aligning with. it's
Of
it's
course. And
obvious that you're
especially,
going to get rid of the ones that you don't trust, you never been around, you don't understand. Like, there were
hmm
so many times just that I was having conversations with people, and they would take things the wrong way, because as a Latina, the way that I talk might translate in Spanish, but it doesn't translate in English. So I kind of say it in English, but then people are like, that doesn't make sense. Like, what are you trying to say? Do you know
it
what
makes
I'm
sense up
saying?
here.
Do you know, has
I
that
think
ever
though people
happened to
don't
you?
understand.
Like,
Oh, 100%. Because if people don't understand, if English is not your first language, your brain is programmed to think in your native language, right? Because that's what you learn first. So then you're processing everything in your native language, and ours would be Spanish. And then we learn English, so you're trying to encode that and
yeah.
then spit that
And
out. And
sometimes
sometimes,
we're so
yeah,
rough. Like, it's like, it's
yeah,
very
when
matter
you're
of
direct, yeah,
fact when you're speaking in Spanish, and depending on the type of Latino or Latina you are, like, the
it's
culture,
very direct.
it's very, very different. So my aggressive nature, which would come off to any other person as aggressive, is just the way that I would talk, right? It's just the way that I would talk. I think it's funny because even to this day, I talk to my husband, and he is not Latino, but he's from Trinidad. He's Caribbean, but we have like these conversations, and sometimes he doesn't even understand what I'm trying to say, because I was just like, I don't know. Let me say, for example, I always
Yeah.
tell people, I've always said this my whole life, and I don't know why anybody didn't correct me. My husband just corrected me a couple months ago, and I was like mortified. And I was like, really? I've been saying this my whole life. So
People just smile.
I was racing to the car, and we were trying to figure out who was going to get there first. It was me, my daughter, my husband. So we were racing to the car, and we're like, first one
Uh-huh.
there, or last one there, like, has to, buy whatever. And so we ran, and I got there, and me and my husband and I, like, we got there almost at the same time, but I got there first. And
Hmm.
we were arguing about it. And I was like, no, bro, I got here first than you. And he's like, you know,
First in you.
Yeah, I say first in you. I said first in you. I've been saying this my whole life. I've been saying this my whole life.
Oh my
I'm like,
god.
no, I swear, I got here first in you. And he's like, you know that you've been saying that a lot. You've said that. I was like, I've been saying this my whole life. And he's like, well, you know that's not proper English, right? And I was like, what you talking about? And he's like, no, you got here before me. And I was like, I've never
Yes.
said that my whole damn life. When I got there, I did it first in you. I was first in you. And he's like, no, but in Spanish, it's always like primero que tú. I was like, it's like,
Yes.
so I literally translated it. And that's how and even those little things would make a
Hmm.
random person who's never spoke Spanish, who doesn't know the language, who doesn't know, like, would be like, this uneducated bee, like, she was like,
Right.
there's just like, she is like all over the place. And to some people, they're like, oh my god, it was so refreshing listening to you talk, or seeing you on the show, because I finally was watching somebody that I could relate to. And other people were like, ugh, like, get her off the show. Like, I can't even stand to look at her. I can't even stand to hear her talk. It was
Yeah,
very.
reality TV, it's very nasty. I mean, we grew up watching the Real World and stuff like that. So it gets nasty because you're like, oh, I kind of identify with this person, so screw everybody else that's here. I'm cheering for that person. You have your favorites, and that's what that keeps you entertained, that keeps you watching, keep you tuned in for the next week and week after that. Now we've concluded, the before, during, and after of this show, but I wanted to touch on your introduction into modeling, which got you this opportunity. So, I remember because I was working on Wacker Drive.
Yeah.
Remember that? What was that? The Illinois building?
Yeah,
And I saw you on the escalator when it's funny because I think you were working for a
I
marketing
was.
company
Yeah.
and you were going to, it was a Hershey Kiss campaign.
You have such a good memory. I was like, oh my
I
God.
really don't. I mean, this is stuff from like whatever.
Stop.
The brain was still good at that point, so it stays in there. Right now, you couldn't ask me what I had for lunch. I won't remember, but I do remember that. Yeah, I was going up to get lunch, and you were going out to for that. So that's the last time. Not that we seen each other at that time, but like the last time I remember where you were doing that,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, I'm modeling." I'm like,
I
"Wait, wait, wait, wait,
know.
wait! What happened between here and
It's
there?"
so random. I live my life in very random spurts, and I always try to support people who like to do that. A little career change doesn't hurt anybody. I think
Okay.
that, yeah, I graduated from college in marketing. That's what I studied when I went to Columbia. And after that, I found myself at a marketing company, and I was an account manager for this marketing firm, and my accounts were Hershey. It was Hershey,
Mhm.
amongst others. But the style of
Right.
marketing that I was doing was, at that point, was considered experiential marketing. Now it's just called, like, it could be considered mobile marketing. It's considered just marketing in general, like event marketing. Imagine, I always tell people to imagine, like, when you go to a festival and you see all of those booths, or you see a really, a cool,
Yes.
a cool van that gets tricked out, and they're giving you free, free whatever, free food,
Mhm.
free merchandise, whatever. That's what I was
Yeah.
doing. And I was in charge of brands, that where I had to go all over the country and go to all of these festivals, with at that point, it was with the Hershey Kiss Mobile. So
Mhm.
imagine, like, the Hershey, not the Hershey Kiss Mobile. Imagine the Oscar Mayer Wiener Mobile, right? Except
Mhm.
that this was with Hershey Kisses. So it was a big 30-foot truck. It had three huge Hershey Kisses on it. They were giving away free chocolate. Like, we were going
Yeah.
all over the country. And that was a good majority of my life in the marketing scene, not just with Hershey, because that's, but I've worked with the competitive federation of eaters. Like, I've done jalapeno eating contests. I've worked on campaigns where we've broken the Guinness Book of World Record,
Wow.
for God knows what. the biggest lollipop, the most jalapenos eaten in 1 minute, the you know the milk chugging competitions, like you name it. Like it was just wild. My marketing
There's a
life.
competition
It was
for
a
everything.
competition
Yeah.
for everything. The idea was we were getting free publicity, we were working with brands, we were getting the attention, and doing that one-on-one marketing. Which I love being around people. So it was always, representing a brand, representing and putting that brand in a good light. So I was doing that, and I was doing that for a good 10 years of my life. Um, and then I had the opportunity to work, or to pitch for the first ever curvy runway. And I don't know if you have ever heard of a model by the name of Ashley Graham. She's one of
Yes.
the, she is, if not, she is the biggest, no
Yes.
pun intended, the biggest
The
plus
famous,
size,
most
most
famous.
famous, the
Yes.
most famous
Yes.
plus size model.
Words matter,
I know, the
Jessica.
biggest.
Words
She's not the
matter.
biggest, but she is the most famous of all curvy models. And at that point, she was kind of the main face of a brand called Lane Bryant. And we
Correct.
were working on a campaign for the first like curvy model show, or the curvy fashion show. Now, at back
Hmm.
then, I didn't even know that this existed. I did not know that bigger women could model. That was just like in my mind, it was like
I
if you're
guess it didn't
modeling,
register,
yeah,
right?
it never
Yeah,
registered
it doesn't.
that.
Yeah, because like you would go to a store, like let's say you go to Sears, I know we're kind of dating ourselves, like Sears, Kmart, whatever, and then you know you go to that section, and there's images right above the clothing rack,
Mhm.
but you're not really paying attention to it. You're not noticing that, oh, that's an actual model that posed for this, wearing this clothing, so it doesn't
Exactly.
register.
And not
It's
only
just
that, is like that not a lot of them looked like me. They weren't bigger girls. And this is from I mean, dating us all the way back. I was always an Express girl, like, and Express right now is probably going under what, chapter 13 or something. They're about to like close out all their stores. But
yeah,
back then, and still to this day, Express doesn't have plus size clothing. They don't have clothes
no,
for
they don't.
bigger girls. So I always remember always fitting in the very, very last size of Express, feeling like, oh crap, I'm fat, I need to lose weight, or else I'm not going to fit into these clothes. And if I can't fit into these clothes, then what the hell am I going to wear? You know what I mean? Like, it was
Yeah,
always that feeling in the back of my mind. And then when I found this company, Lane Bryant, and I realized that there's a whole community of bigger girls that dress like, that are fashionistas. They're at that point, when I was starting out as a model, was right when the influencer boom. It was the very, very beginning of Instagram. Very beginning of
okay,
Instagram. So like, we had you know not I mean, there were podcasters, but it was just like everything was so brand new, right? So my
yes,
eyes just, I just couldn't believe that this was a thing. So then my husband would look at these pictures when I was showing him what the type of work I was doing, and he's like, these girls look like you, like, and really, like, you look like you could be doing this. And I was like, nah, can I? And he's like, yeah, you can, of course you can do that. Like, you take great pictures. You definitely could.
uh-huh.
And that, like, kind of planted the seed.
Like,
Fast
mhm.
forward, I took some pictures. I entered it into a modeling competition, and out of like 5,000 applicants, I got picked as like the number 2 pick, got signed to a New York agency, bada bing, bada boom. And I
Wow.
started working. And then I was kind of doing my marketing and modeling at the same time, because, when you model, it's
Mhm.
kind of slow. Then things started picking up. More people started asking for me. Um, Mind you, at this time I was 20, I was 29. I was 29.
Mhm.
So you don't really think about being a model as a big girl, but as a almost 30-year-old woman, you don't think of, let me go drop my professional marketing career
That you went to college
what I
for.
went to
Yep.
college for, to just be a model. Like, who does that? Right. And I was just like, but my agent was like, hey, you either need to shit or get off the pot, because I have
Hmm.
girls that I have brands that are asking for you. And if you can't come to New York, if you can't do the job, and I'm telling these brands that want you that they can't have you, it's looking bad on me. You're not making me money. I can't do anything with you. So figure out what you want to do. And right around that time, my company had gotten bought out. I had a big situation in my hands. Do I want to go and deal with a company that is no longer my company? Or do I want to try something new? And I decided to go with the latter and take a big risk at almost 30 years old. And then, yeah, and it luckily it all worked out very well.
Worked out.
It
Yeah.
wasn't easy, but I felt like I was doing more service to people by being that representation. I've always been like, well, there's not a lot of plus size women, but there's also not a lot of Latina plus size models. There's not a lot of plus size models, but there's definitely not a lot of Latina plus size models. So I was kind of in
Mhm.
a perfect situation to be that just representation, and I got lucky, and I was able to walk Fashion Week and do a lot of things that I'm very proud of. And I think that that's when I got called for Big Brother, and why Big Brother wanted me on the show was because that's what I represented. It was just like, it's not just a person, it was someone who's just very proud. I was a very, and I still am, just very body positive advocate. Like, they were looking for someone who was body positive because that was, back in 2019, that was the trend. It was body positivity. This was before Lizzo, but it was just like everything was body positivity, And I was that that person. And I think that you would have to be. I would feel like you would have to be that type of person in order to deal with what everything I dealt with in the house. Because as a plus size model, I've also dealt with it. I dealt with online bullying, posting and doing all
Yeah.
that. So I was just kind of very immune to it, I think.
So, I mean, obviously, you've always been a sociable person. You love to be around people. You can talk to anybody.
Talk to a
Obviously, you invited
wall.
me to the lunch. You invited me to the lunch table, and then after it's history. We became friends. Um,
Yeah.
but like in reality, like, are you always in the mood to be around people? Are you, or is that like, because for, how do I say this? For me, because my day job is a teacher, and when I get there, it's like, okay, I'm whatever, and then as soon as the bell rings, the camera lights on, I'm in Mr. Z mode, and I'm this persona that I have to portray while I'm teaching.
Hmm.
It can be exhausting.
Absolutely.
I come home, I'm exhausted. People don't understand that. Is that something that you go through?
I do now. I think that in as I've gotten older, I have, and of course, not just getting older, but I think um, with COVID, the whole, everything that happened after COVID, I feel like I have become so much more of an introvert.
Hmm.
Before, like, I grew up with, there was four of us in the house in terms of brothers and sisters. And I grew up in a house of like seven people all the time. You know how Latinos are. Like, we just grow up in big households, at least before we did. I'm always around a lot of people. Shit, I went to Lane Tech. There was 4,000 kids there. Like, I feel like
Yeah,
almost immune to that. Like, I was just always around crowds. Like, the
definitely.
type of work that I did, marketing, it was always talking to
Right.
people, it was
Right.
being personable. So
Yeah.
I've always had that. Um, I remember in high school that one of my counselors was like, I was like, I don't know what I want to do for college. I don't know what I want to be. I have no idea. And he's like, well, you talk a lot. So, I mean, but he didn't say it in the meanest way. It was just
It's on the
like, check.
report card.
Okay, check. No, but because at that point I was, I was president of Aspira, which was like a Latino organization
Yes.
at school. I was doing a lot. And he was one of our counselors for that. And he said, you talk to big groups, you are a talker and you like to lead. And he's like, I think you should be in communications. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Now, yeah, now sometimes I want to go home and I don't want to talk to nobody. I don't even want to talk to my husband. I'm just like, you stop right there. I don't want to say anything. I just want to turn on some Netflix and I just want to get lost in not thinking about the day, you know?
hundred
And
percent.
sometimes it makes me sad sometimes because I know that's not always who I used to be. I used to be always out, ready for the next one, being with my
Hmm.
girls. Like I still had to this day, six best friends, and who has those? All from high school. You probably know all of them.
I do.
Lily,
Great girls.
Maddie, like we know,
Great
all
girls.
my girls.
Yes.
Like, so I feel like I've always, I, and I'm still very social, but I now know how to protect my energy and know if I don't vibe with you, it's not happening. Like you're not
Yeah.
gonna get Big Z here is not gonna, you get it. And we can talk because we vibe, but not
Right.
everybody's gonna get Big Z energy from me. You know what I mean?
No. 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 It's. I think it's a lot more as you get older. You learn how to do self care,
Absolutely.
for your mental and emotional and spiritual health. It's like, yeah, I'm not gonna waste my time with this situation with a certain person. I'm not going to go to these certain locations because it's a negative or it's a draining experience. I'm good, but like, you're modeling. You're doing, going into Big Brother. You come out of Big Brother. You're still modeling, but again, as you get older, you're like, you know what? I'm okay. Work was fine. Nothing really happened. All right, I'm gonna go sit on the couch.
Give me
Give me 90
give me
minutes.
my
Yeah,
space.
give me 90 minutes, and after 90 minutes, I'll be recharged, and I'll give you all of my attention. And it's super hard for a partner to understand that, and you have to find the right partner to be like, okay, she had a long day, it's draining, she just wants to recharge. Cool, I'll see you in 90 minutes. I'm gonna go walk the dog, whatever.
Exactly.
I'll cook dinner, whatever, and that's fine. And I've been on the other side where like, hey, you're home, this is and that. And you're like, and they're like, I don't want to talk to people.
No, for
It-
sure. I think I got lucky in the sense that the person that I chose
mhm,
is complete opposite of me. So he can be social when he wants to in spurts,
mhm,
but he's more of an introvert than he is an extrovert, and he's very much grounded me. So like when I'm very like high, he's still low, and
mhm.
he's like, Jessica, take it down a notch. Like we can, I'm right here,
You're
like
at a
you're at it
12. We need
exactly.
you at a
I'm
6.
typically always at a 12, but
Yeah.
he's like, let's calm down. But at the same time, like when I want to chill, more than likely he wants to chill too. Look, I'm sure that it's 8 o'clock and I'm not home yet, but he is
Mhm.
getting ready to go to sleep, and and that's his thing. And I love him for it because when I get home and I want to chill, he's already chilling. If I wanted to live it up and be out, he also lets me do that. And that's why I have my friends. I spend my energy and my time a lot more with my socially with my friends. Can
Mhm.
understand that my time with him is my time with him, but at least um he lets not that he lets me do it. It's not like anybody should let you do it,
Right.
which is another great thing about him. It's not that he's letting me do anything because I don't really ask him for permission, but
No.
he understands. he
Correct. Just, you need your girl time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He understands when I have events with Big Brother or if I'm with Survivor, like, because I do a lot of Survivor events as well. Like, we'll do like
Okay.
watch parties. I have my own podcast. So, like, at a lot of times when going to those events with other reality show people, he ain't there with me. He's like, I can't do that. I don't watch that stuff. I'm good. And I meet him where he's at. And I don't feel like I need the validation from him because he's not with me to do what I need to
Mhm.
do. I do what I need to do, but when I get home, I shut down and it's me and him time. Sometimes we're just there, just being, it's not, I
Mhm.
think it's a beautiful thing when you have a partner that you don't always have to be on for. They let you be you. You let them be them,
Yeah.
and you meet somewhere in the middle. I'm very privileged to say that, we've been with each other for almost 15 years, that I still have my own individual life and that he has
Yeah.
his own individual life, and we come together. It's always like, what do you have this week? And then I'll be like, oh, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And like on Thursday, I'm leaving to New York for this, that, and that. I'm not saying, hey, babe, so I kind of have this opportunity to go to New York. Do you think I can go? Like, it's never, no. And same for him. Like, he'd be like, I'm going to go to a like, I don't know. He was like, I'm going to a men's retreat. And I'm like, what the hell? You going to a men's retreat? He's like, yup, here it is. This is what it is. I just booked it. I'm off. I'm going next weekend. I'm like, peace out, bro. You know what I did? I brunched it up with the girls. I went out. I had my good old time. I got home. I watched enough. I was like, yes. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Because it gave me some time too. But then we have amazing time together too. But that's the best
It's a
part. It's the
balance.
balance. It's the best part.
It's a
Wait,
balance
you're
of
a
that.
Libra,
Yeah.
right? I remember that. Are you a Libra? No?
No, I'm a Taurus. I'm
Oh,
a Taurus.
I thought you were a Libra for some reason. Why did I
No,
think you
no,
were?
no. I'm a Taurus.
You're a homebody then.
I yeah, so I'm a homebody, but if I'm out, I'm out.
Hmm.
I I do get some cabin fever sometimes, because I like to stay home, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm bored. I need to get out of the house.
You need to
So let me
energize
go.
sometimes.
Right, but also being in the podcast business, like I need to be out and be,
Hmm.
my personality and say, oh, you know what, this is what I do, and so
Yeah.
forth. So but you have to interact, and that's all the marketing I have to do. But yeah, I understand that you need to find someone in that gives you that middle and
Hmm.
also lets you tilt to your side, to your weight side. Like, oh, this is me. I'm an extrovert. I know you're an introvert. Sometimes we're on their side and sometimes we're on my side. Um, it's a hard balance, and it's hard to find a mature person, a mature partner to understand that it's not going to be always in the middle. Sometimes it's going to be heavy sided for one side or the
Absolutely.
other a little bit. You know, you don't give 100% every day. Sometimes I only have 20% to give you today. And that's where your partner has to pick you up with the other 80,
Hmm.
and that changes day by day. So that's great that you have that support system at home, because I'm pretty sure that came a long way coming from that stressful situation with all that negativity from the show, all the backstabbing and changing your personality to lie and not be yourself.
Yeah.
um, but what are things that bring you happiness? Now we're not talking about your relationship, but like things that you like to do, your hobbies, your passions. That's not modeling. That's not uh, modeling, acting, or
Any of the
what else?
things that you just not modeling, not
47 things
acting,
you do.
not in
Yeah.
family. I would probably I mean that's also probably not family. I mean, what brings me personal joy is honestly um my relationships with my friends, specifically my best friends, but because we're all so different and we've just been best friends for so long. It's going on almost 30 years, you know. And so they're kind of like my rocks, my sister. Um as well. But if it's we're not talking about personal things, I love to paint. I'm still a very arts and crafty kind of girl, so I do,
Hmm.
even though I don't have the time, I
Yeah.
love like DIY crap. Like if I can paint the house, if I can, redecorate something,
Hmm.
for a long time my plants were a big thing for me. I propagate plants. I become a big plant mama. I have I've taken some classes right now. One of the things that brings me great joy, I'm taking pole dancing classes, which
Good. It's a hard thing to
it's
do.
so
It's a
hard.
lot of it's a lot of upper body strength and a lot of bruises on your legs.
Dude, like I'm only like four classes in, and I'm gonna be posting it on my Instagram, but it's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, mentally and physically, because you think, like, I don't know, even doing one of those twirls like around a pole, you're not even jumping on a pole. I'm not even at the jumping part. Well, they're teaching me how to sit on a pole, and that's insane. I just like, I'm gonna
Mhm.
die. This is not, my body is telling me no. It's like it's very complete opposite of R. Kelly. It's like my mind is saying yes, but my body is telling me no. It's like, girl, sit your ass down, not on the pole. Like, just sit there and look at the pole, pretend you can do it. Like, it's all those things. But I've always enjoyed challenging myself. There's something, when my daughter was like, "You're so weird." Like, it's like, I have a mom who's, going to pole dancing classes. What are you doing? But
She won't get
again,
it till
she
later.
won't get it.
Later,
And
she's like, "Oh my God, she was such an adventurous
and
soul."
I still have older adults that are just like, girl, calm your ass down. Like, what are you doing? Like, acting like a stripper on a pole. And it's like, yo, this has nothing to do with that. Like, I have
No.
so much respect, um, physically, for these women who you would
Mhm.
not look at and say, oh my God, they're so physically fit. I've seen some big girls on these poles, right? It's just
Yep.
the most amazing thing. But to be able to conquer it and do it with such grace. And the thing is that I've always been big on, just, again, like I said, fashion, body positivity in a sense. I love it when a woman is just so comfortable with her body. And I think that when you are dancing on a pole, at least in these classes, there's just a sense of that community of these girls who, nobody's body is perfect. Everybody has either their rolls, their little cellulite, their whatever that's going on. And yet it teaches you how to be even more comfortable with your body in a very sensual way. Not to sound like so weird, but it's just like you have to have a lot of self-confidence in order to work a pole, like, and work a
Yes.
pole to where you're not looking uncomfortable, because, like I said, even walking by the pole,
Mhm.
holding on to the pole, doing little transitions, like twisting, and you're on the floor, you're not on the pole. Just doing that by holding on to a pole, you're like, this is wild. I didn't think it was going to be this hard. So, yeah, so I always like to challenge myself in those ways. Obviously, I got on Big Brother because I wanted to challenge myself. But I
Mhm.
think those things, anything, I'm always up for a challenge. Things that I feel like are very taboo, that people would probably say, she probably can't do this.
Yeah.
I love making myself look like a fool and try to prove them wrong.
Oh, you're not making yourself
Oh,
look like a
but
fool
trust,
because
there's a lot of
you're.
memes of me. You said you couldn't
Oh
find
no.
me. You said you couldn't find me on the internet. I will tell you exactly what to write on the internet to find the most ridiculous memes of myself. It was
Oh my God.
insane, the amount of memes that I have out. I probably shouldn't even be saying this for everybody to look. They're gonna be
So
looking for
everybody's gonna go
memes. They're
now.
gonna be looking for memes of me.
You can tell me off. It's okay. It's I really commend you and people that do that where they're willing to put themselves out there, and that's something when I'm teaching, like I tell everyone like, okay, what we're doing may not be your jam,
Mm-hmm.
but get comfortable with being uncomfortable because when you leave school, when you go to work, you're gonna have to work with people you don't like. You're gonna have to be in situations you don't want to be in. Not everything is going to be catered to you, and
Absolutely.
that's kind of the generation we're in. Like, oh, this doesn't cater to me. I don't like it, and I'm gonna make a big fuss. And it's like trying to teach my students that you're going to be in these situations, so learn how to deal with the situation emotionally and physically, and how to navigate this, and using your words instead of your fist or blowing up.
Yeah, I agree with
So,
that. That's my daughter
you
just graduated from high
Mhm.
school. And
Oh wow,
yeah, and I looked at her. You said it's generational, and I agree.
it is.
I looked at her yearbook, and
Mhm,
under her pretty face, her picture, they have
mhm,
little taglines, right, of each kid. Because I
mhm.
I guess when you only have like 200 kids graduating at your school, you can do that. You can't do that with like 900 of us, right?
No,
But with her picture, the tagline that is under her picture says, "This is too much work." That was her tagline. And then I laugh because it's what she says. It's what she says. Like, if I am trying to show her a better way to wash the dishes, a better way to clean a bathroom, a better way to do anything, and I'm explaining it to her and why it's happening, she's like, this is too much work. Like,
oh yeah, this is too much.
it's always so
Uh,
inconvenienced. And I'm like,
yeah,
girl, let me tell you something. And I always tell her exactly what you said. It's like, it's gonna be, it's everything is too much work. But the most important thing is that the work is meaningful, and the work is fun. And not all the work is gonna be fun, but it's never gonna be easy. I
right,
mean, the generation now is about working smarter, not harder. And I can understand and respect that, but the work is still work. Like,
correct.
you're working, whether it's smarter or harder, you're still working, and it's going to be a lot of work.
Mm,
And if you want to get anywhere, it's always going to be a lot of work. So the work that you do, you have to make sure that you're in it for the long haul, or that you're in it for a good amount of time, and that you're enjoying the work. So, but this whole, like, I don't want to work, I don't want to do anything for work, I'm like,
Yeah, they will. It's in the
I
entitlement
don't.
generation. That's what I call them because, it's like you're saying. I want to teach you how to do it correctly. Oh, this is too much. This is two more steps than I'm used to. It's an
Absolutely.
inconvenience for me. And it's like, no, no, no. If you do it this way, the next time you do it, it'll be a lot shorter and even shorter the next time because you'll have these steps already built in.
Exactly. Learn it like I always say, like, learn it the hard way first time. And once you learn
Hmm.
it, it's hard because you're first learning it, but then it's just going to get easier and easier, or it will be less, or the work will still be there, but you'll know how to do it. I mean, and mind you, my daughter's a very smart girl, and thankfully, she got practically a full ride scholarship to
Good
for
for her.
college. So the work she's doing is work. So when she's saying it's too much work, well, yeah, but look, but you got your whole college paid for, and it was a lot of work. But
Yeah,
look at what you got, and
yeah.
now you don't have to worry about having to pay off student
Student
loans
loans.
coming right out of
Yeah,
college, because that's
yeah,
even more work, because then now you're
yeah,
working it's always work. That's the big thing, right? It's always just kind of a,
yeah.
what kind of work. It's hard. It's like, my husband and I always tell him, like, choose your hard. Everything's hard, right? It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to
That's a
work out,
great quote.
right?
That is a great
It's
quote. I'm gonna be using that
things.
this
It's
year.
it's 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 hard. It's hard to work out. It's hard to work out and be fit. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort. It's a lot of work, and it's hard. But it's also hard to be out of shape. and it's hard to put your body in a position where you're constantly exhausted, you can't breathe, you're walking up a hill, and it's hard for you to walk up
Mhm,
too. Choose your hard.
mhm.
Which one are you doing? It's hard work. The work that you're doing, it's hard when you're working. I mean, you always have a choice. It's hard either way.
Yeah, there's a couple things I really preach about, and those are some of them. And one of them is like, you see all these adults here in the building. They're not out to get you. They're all here, and they chose a profession to help every individual in here.
Absolutely.
You take it as offense that we're trying to talk down to you. But 99% of the time, it's not. That's not what it is. But everybody here has lived a certain life and probably had multiple lives before they became a teacher. I myself had different careers before becoming a teacher. If I can give you the cheat codes to life right now to better yourself, to make yourself a millionaire in 10 years from now, from the advice that I give you, would you take it? Like, yeah. Would you take it knowing now that it's going to be super hard? Oh, that's too much.
It's too much. It's too hard. This is too much work. That's
So, so you don't want to be well off. You want to struggle paycheck to paycheck,
exactly. Again, and that's a whole other thing. Choose your hard. You want to work hard, you
right?
want to get good money? It's going to be work. It's going to be hard. But you know what's also hard? Living in poverty and not
Yeah,
being able to pay for the things that you want to do and having to, is it hard to budget? Yeah, that's just hard.
yeah.
But you'll have money. It's also hard not to have money and having to figure out how you're going to pay your bills. Like two different types of hard. It's like choose your hard.
It's it's so weird because I know, if we reflect to when we were in high school, everyone has dreams and aspirations.
Mhm.
I knew I'm not going to the NBA. I had my growth spurt right before I went into high school. That was it. I'm 5'11".
That's
That's
it.
it. I knew I'm not growing because my family's not that tall. Okay, I'm happy with that. I know I'm not going to the NBA. I'm not the greatest basketball player either. Okay, professional sports is out. What else can I do? And that's like, all right, well, I'm not good at rapping. I'm not good at drawing. Yeah, school might be the thing to be good at for a little bit until I figure it out. And there's a lot of failed aspirations, I want to call them. Oh, I'm going to be a famous rapper. I'm like, yeah, you have the ability to put stuff out into the world way different than we did. We didn't have all these avenues to make yourself, quote unquote, famous, TikTok famous,
Mm,
which is great if it blows up. But you'd be one in a billion that gets that one opportunity. And just remember, there's 35 of you in this classroom. So let's say one of you actually does make it. There's 34 people that didn't make it with the same aspirations, the
yeah.
same dream, and be prepared to change your
Yeah,
dreams.
absolutely. And I think, and again, coming from hard, like I do the influencing, I've done the content creation and in the influencer scene, and I've gotten paid by brands. And that shit is
Mhm.
hard. It's not easy. Like it,
Yeah.
and they would think, oh, I want to be TikTok famous. I want to be Instagram, this, that, and the other, thinking that it's because it's going to be cute and easy. And it's not. That is not easy work, and I commend those people as well that actually make it really, really big. That because it's constant video time, it's creating scripts, it's editing
Oh my
video, like just
God.
just in doing a podcast, having
Oh
to
my God.
contact the people that are going to be on your podcast, of spending time to do it, getting the equipment, editing whatever needs to be edited, marketing for it, constant. It's a lot of
It's
work. It's a lot of
it
work.
I'm always on the hamster wheel, and then I have 2 shows, and then I help produce a 3rd
Look at
show,
that.
and it's like it's a lot. It really is, and I've gotten to the point with the sports show where I don't need to write a 16-page script anymore. I'm at that point where I can condense it to about 6 pages. Um, that took what, almost 3 years to condense it down, because I needed the visual to keep track of like what we're talking about and so
Absolutely.
forth. And then growing up listening to sports radio, I'm like, okay, well, we should be taking a break soon. Let's give our audience a break soon. So I'll be like, because I was always the bus driver when I had Eddie on my other show. I was always the bus driver. All right, I'm gonna start the show. All right, I'm gonna drive the topics. I'll let you talk all you want to talk. That's great, great content. All right, cool. We need to go to commercial, and sometimes it would run long, and I'm like, people have a short attention
Yeah.
span, especially now. So it's like we can't have a 2-hour podcast and then not to give the listener a break every 25 minutes just to break it up to monotonous. If you're talking for 90 minutes, who wants to hear that?
Yeah.
Like that's super hard. And as we're at 120. Um,
Oh yeah, right. This is our little catch up, our little catch up
yeah,
session
yeah, this is catch up.
as
Yeah,
we talk, and the sun is going down in the apartment, and you can now
yeah, I see
finally
it.
see. I for some reason now I am lighter than now that there is
Yeah, that
no
makes no
now that there
sense. That
is
makes
no
no sense.
light in my in this location. So I'm just like, oh, this is interesting. Like now you can see my face. That's great.
Yes, yes, that's okay. Yeah, I was gonna figure out how to lighten your video. Well,
Uh,
that'd been another YouTube hour of me
I
learning how to do
apologize.
something.
I'm like, oh,
No, it's okay. It's actually, it's good for me. I learned something. But yeah, I mean, like for me, like I learned how to edit the audio. I learned how to edit video by myself. Buying the equipment, doing the marketing.
mhm.
Uh, Especially if it's just you and you're just starting out. You're spending your own money for your dream, and you're gonna have to invest in yourself.
Yes.
And because no one's going to do that for you, you have to invest in your dream, and it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, we're approaching 200 episodes on the True Chicago Sportsman
That's
podcast.
amazing.
Yeah, in about 2 weeks. Most podcasts don't go past 7 episodes. So we've gone
Wow.
200. This is going to be coming out in July, but this is another passion of mine because I want to talk to interesting people that are not related to sports.
Yeah.
I do enjoy just having conversations with people. I had Nikki Gomez. She's another plus size model.
I know
I had her a
Nikki.
couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We talked for like almost 2 hours just straight, and she's such a beautiful
She
soul.
is. She's
Uh,
amazing.
yeah, we did
Actually,
a
what's
movie together.
interesting is like on my journey of modeling,
Mm-hmm.
Nikki was already considered kind of an OG back when I first started. And I
Yeah.
remember she was one of the first, she was the first to go on a reality TV show
Hmm.
of big girls. It was
Yep.
like the first, and that's what I'm talking about is that you have to, there has to be someone that you can look up to know that it is possible to do it. And it's like seeing women like Nikki. And actually I've had the pleasure of Nikki photographing me. Some of my first early on photographs were of Nikki's photos of me. And I will tell you, like, she definitely gave me that hope of just like, this is, I'm able to do this. She also, which I didn't say when you asked me what I like to do, but because I never really thought about it, she also inspired me to pick up a camera and start taking photos of models. And on the side I do work with a lot of inspired or a lot of models that have been signed, and um, aspirational models that want to go into the business. And I teach them how to pose, and I shoot, and I photograph them. Some of my photos have been in their portfolios for their professional agencies. So it was like one of those
Yeah.
passion, like I just became very, very passionate about that. But again, the idea is you had to see it. You had to know that it's possible to be able to take that to the next step. Had I not seen women like at that point Ashley Graham or someone like Nikki Gomez, if I had
Hmm.
not seen that people were successful in their own right and creating their own path, I don't think that I would have ever thought that it would be possible for me to do something like that, let alone leave my well-paying career to do something completely different, if I didn't see someone like myself. And I think that that was one of the reasons why I wanted to be, you know, a model, so that someone could see me and say, I look like her, I can do that. Or even if they said, damn, that girl, oh my God, I could definitely do that then. However you look at it, right? It doesn't matter.
More or in spite of, right?
As long
Yeah.
as I inspire you, it's like you could hate
Yeah.
my guts and say I could definitely do it because this bitch like she's not good at it, and and I'd be like, damn, well at least I inspire you to do something. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think
Yeah.
I did that on Big Brother as well because I've gotten a lot of being like I want to go on the show because I saw what you did, and either they think they can do it better or they just know that it can be done and that they can try to take the torch and go just a little bit further, right? It's always about
Mhm.
making sure that it just goes further than you. Like I never did it just to be like, oh, here I am. This is me. All me, 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 me,
What's the next steps then? Like you've done a reality show, you've been on podcast, you've picked up the camera for photography.
Yeah.
You're a Renaissance woman.
Oh,
You've
thank
done a
you.
little bit of everything, and you've been really good at different things. But what's the next step for you then?
Now I just die. It's just, that simple.
This is the highlight. Thanks, you got a
That's
good
it.
night.
I hit the level, I hit the ceiling, and now it's just crashing down. It's just downhill from here. No, I don't really know. I've always been that girl who just like I follow whatever feels good and whatever makes sense, right? If I like it, I will try it. Like I'm that girl aside from like my ADHD, which I do have diagnosed ADHD. So I don't want to like if someone has ADHD and they think like this girl just be throwing out that word. No, like I am late diagnosed, but I was. I find that passion project and then I just like consume myself in that. I've learned how to do. I've learned how to do acrylic nails. I was doing nails on people for a while. I became the resident barber. Like I be cutting. I cut my nephew's hair. I cut my brother's hair. I cut my husband's hair. I cut my sister's hair. I dye their hair. It's been like wild. Anything that I like, I'm just very hands on.
Hmm.
I just want to do things that I love, right? But in terms of projects of what I have aside from just like my everyday regular 9 to 5 because I do still model, but I more so like mentor now with the side of modeling and then I work. I am actually a part of the planning committee for the first ever diverse fashion show for Chicago Fashion Week that has been sanctioned by the mayor. And
Nice.
so Chicago Fashion Week is in October, and I will be working on that project for the Fulton Market runway show. And I'm
Oh
really
wow.
excited about it because yeah, we don't have a lot of fashion opportunities in Chicago. It's why I
No, we
I
don't.
was in New York for quite some time doing my modeling. All of my modeling and working with brands has always been outside of Chicago. So to come back into Chicago and do something with the Chicago community and find a diverse group of runway models
Mhm.
and showcase diverse groups of runway fashion designers in from Chicago is I think that's my passion project for this year. I'm really excited about it. So that's what I have in the works. Uh, and who knows?
Congratulations. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I always kind of do like these things that I'm just like, yeah, it's nothing, uh,
Huge.
but I'm excited about this one because this is the first Chicago Fashion Week that is actually recognized by the city. We've had a lot of fashion weeks in Chicago, but none of them have been actual Chicago fashion weeks, meaning like it would be a part of the Chicago schedule, that it was part of like the mayor's office of special events. So this one's a big one.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, we're at the 90 minutes, and I think this is a good time to pause because I think, we'll reconvene a later time and we'll continue to explore your. Well, you know what? We'll do it right after Fashion Week. How about
Oh
that? We meet up after
yeah.
Fashion Week so we can give a post on how it went and, what are we going to go through from there. But I mean, this has been so much fun to catch up with you and able to talk about your journey into modeling, acting, and haircuts and plans.
I'm the most random girl. I honestly don't know. I just like when people say, "What do you do?" I'm like, I don't know. I honestly don't.
Yeah, you have a little touch of OCD, ADHD, and a lot of other DDs. Like it's
Yeah,
just
I got double D.
it's
No, I
everything.
don't even have double D's. It's way there. Yeah. Well, that's another podcast. That's the after. That's the
After dark
after
one.
dark. That's the after dark
Yeah,
podcast. Yeah.
you got to pay for that one, ladies and gentlemen. We got to pay for that one. We don't give that kind of content for free.
I know. We're just like, girl, get yourself an OnlyFans. Who knows? By October, I might just plug in my OnlyFans. There you go.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Jessica, it's been great to talk to you. Can you give our listeners and watchers your handles and where they can find you?
Absolutely. So on all my handles, I Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, it's J Milagros Plus um, on all handles. And I have a podcast called Girl Let's Agree to Disagree. And that is only up for Big Brother season because I also, amongst the 1,000 things that I do, also
Yep.
podcast the reality show that I was once on. And we kind of deep dive into the episodes. And I have other former house guests that come on the show with me. And we podcast about what in the world is going on in the house for 99 days straight. I'm not on 99 days on my podcast, so don't expect it. But we do recap it every week. And that's
Got it.
Girl Let's Agree to Disagree. And that's on YouTube.
YouTube. I did see that. Yeah.
Hmm.
All right, Jessica. Thank you for being in Podsicated with me, and we'll catch up on, at a different time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.